Hello dear students, today I have selected another very important chapter, especially for the second students, those who are going to appear at the forthcoming council examination. Okay, interpretation of graph, table or chart. And interpreting a graph, a table or a chart, you have to write a paragraph in about 70 words, for which you will be given maximum 5 marks. Okay, you see, what is the meaning of interpretation? Interpretation को माने कौन? Understanding, बुझिबा, जानिबा कौन about a graph or a table or a chart. तब ये जो हूँ कौन ना फ्रॉम नॉन भर्बाल टू भर्बाल ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन. आम गोटे नॉन भर्बाल, दिस इज नॉन भर्बाल कौन गोटे पिक्चर थी, गोटे टेबुलटे थी, गोटे ग्राफटे थी, ताकू देखिकी आम कौन करवा जहाँ बुझिले ताकू गोटे नियर अबाउट 70 वर्ड्स रे ओन लैंग्वेज रे ओन वर्ड्स रे ताकू आम पैराग्राफ लिखा. नाउ come to the question. The following chart informs us about Mr. Pathak's expenditure of his monthly salary on different heads. Write a paragraph of about 70 words interpreting it. तब ये जो ग्राफ दिखाई से कौन करुचे ये चार्ट दिखाई ना सेटा मिस्टर पाठकर श्रीमान पाठकर मासिक आय जोटा दरमा जी ताकू से को क्षेत्र रे केते खर्च करूचंदी ताकू गोटे ये ग्राफिकल प्रेजेंट कराई इन द फॉर्म ऑफ ए चार्ट. ताकू हम बुझी के कौन करिया गोटे पैराग्राफ लिखिबा. ओके, यू सी डिफरेंट हेड्स एंड दिस इज द इनकम ऑफ मिस्टर पाठक. इनकम ऑफ मिस्टर पाठक. Let it be 100. ओके, जदि मिस्टर पाठक 100 टंका रोजगार करुथिबे ताहले से विभिन्न क्षेत्र में कौन कौन केते खर्च करुचंदी ना हियर यू सी द डिफरेंट हेड्स ऑफ हिज एक्सपेंडिचर. नंबर 1 यू सी हाउस रेंट, for which he spends 20% of his income, and another 20% of his income is spent on food items, and here he spends 50% on medical expenses, medicine, consultation with doctor, etc., and another 10% spent on transportation from home to office and transporting his children to different schools and colleges, attending tuition classes, coaching classes, etc. 10% spent, 15% on savings for the unforeseen future expenditure, for the marriage, for the higher education of his children. He saves 15%, and for establishment charges 10%. जो आमर जो विभिन्न आनुषंगिक खर्च सब रोचे अदर दैन योर फूड मेडिसिन आउ जो खर्च सब रोचे तापाई से 10% रखिछंदी. एंड ही ऑल्सो स्पेंड्स 10% ऑन द एजुकेशन ऑफ हिज चिल्ड्रेन. ओके, नाउ हाउ मेनी हेड्स आर देयर? यू सी 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 यार 8 हेड्स 8टी क्षेत्र रे से पैसा खर्च करूछंदी. Now, how to write a paragraph? First of all, we have to interpret it. We have to understand it very clearly. आम भल भाव बुझा तापर लिखा. And how to begin with this paragraph? आम केमिति लिखा ना this first of all this is a pie chart. Pie means pastry cake. A chart which is in the shape of a circle. जो चार्टा गोटे वृत्त आकार देख यहाँ गोटे गोटे वृत्त गोटे सर्कल. तो जेहेतु यहाँ गोटे वृत्ताकार गोटे क्षेत्र रही आउ ए वृत्त भितर सब इनफॉरमेशन दिखाई देयरफॉर इट इज कॉल्ड ए पाई चार्ट बा सर्कुलर चार्ट तेणु ये जो पाई चार्ट बा सर्कुलर चार्ट कौन करुच्चे आम फास्ट देखा दिस पाई चार्ट provides us information about Mr. Pathak's expenditure on 8 different heads from his monthly salary. Mr. Pathak तांकर मासिक वेतन रो 8टी विभिन्न क्षेत्र में कौन सब खर्च करती ये पाई चार्ट आमको सूचे दूसरा दर्शे दूस. नेक्स्ट फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल he spends about 20% of his monthly income towards paying house rent and another 20% he spends on purchasing different provisions, food items, grocery items for the maintenance of the family. Another 10% is spent on the education of his children. It includes paying tuition fees, monthly fees, etc. for his children, and he also spends another 10% towards establishment expenses, and another 15% is spent on saving for the future of his children to meet unforeseen expenditure. Because when a person becomes old, he has to spend on his own medical expenses, consulting doctor, purchasing medicines, and again he spends 10% for the fuel charges, for the transportation, conveyance allowance of his children. For his own sake, he might be going to the office in a bike, he might be sending his children in a school bus, and towards this he spends 10% of his monthly income. And finally, we cannot ignore the illnesses, the different diseases that we suffer from at different times, and for this Mr. Pathak spends as much as 15% from his monthly salary towards medicinal costs, doctor consultation, etc. And it is very interesting to note here that the house rent and food items claim the equal share from his monthly salary. House rent 20% and food 20%. And out of 100%, 40% is spent on two major heads, and another two major heads are medical expenditure and savings. He is claiming 15% from his income, medical expenditure 15% and savings 30%. 40 plus 30 70%, and another 30% is equally divided, equally spent on three different heads: transportation, establishment, and children's education. Okay. Now, as a whole, Mr. Pathak spends 100% of his income on these 8 different heads, and I think Mr. Pathak seems to be spending no money towards the entertainment of his children. Okay, and he gives more importance to medical expenses and your house rent in comparison to other items. Okay, this is all you have to write when you are attempting an interpretation of a table or a graph or a chart. Always remember, whether you are interpreting a table or a chart or a graph, and if you are interpreting a graph, the following graph provides information about this. If you are interpreting a table, right, the table gives this information, or a chart, this chart gives information like this. This is the introductory sentence, and thereafter you have to proceed deeper and deeper, and you have to explain what are the different things proposed or present in the graph, table or chart. Okay, thank you, and I will come with another interpretation in the next class. Bye, take care.